Others, Chris. Yeah, I'm sorry. Chris, I apologize.
No, that's fine. So I guess I feel like very unfortunately that this level of use of free cash this year is what's needed and not more, mainly because we'll have a fiasco on our hands if an override doesn't pass next year. It would be really devastating. I strongly supported the last override campaign vocally and strongly. Members of my family within the rules that whatever, it was all supported it very strongly. I know unfortunately there were people, parents and families that didn't support it. And unfortunately, it's coming home to roost now, the cuts we're talking about now by the failure of that override. There are two aspects of this budget that I'm really disappointed in. One is I think we should be making, and this isn't popular, I've mentioned it several times before, but I think we should be making some cuts in the town side of the budget so that people who do not have children in schools can experience and feel the pain that's in the budget. Right now, the pain in the budget is only being felt by families and children. It's not being felt by people who don't have children in the system. And so as a result, those people are going to be less likely to vote for an override. And so that's frustrating to me because I think it's really, if people don't have kids in the system, then they don't see the impact that, having 25 or 30 kids in a kindergarten class or 40 kids without exaggeration in a, 12th, 11th grade math class, they don't experience that. So I'm frustrated by that. And then the other thing I'm disappointed in is in the school department and the school committee in not setting aside a fund to address the out-of-district tuition massive growth, which is the source of a lot of the problems here. There should be a fund set aside this year. I don't know how much it should be, $100K or something. I've talked about this before, to get a consultant, have a staff person dedicated to trying to convert some programming from out-of-district to lab, which would significantly cut the out-of-district costs. And I don't know why the school department isn't dealing with that proactively. I've heard them say that it needs to be done, but it should be part of this year's budget. Otherwise, the new superintendent's going to come in and it'll be a whole year of talking about it and setting aside money, and we'll have a whole year of increased out-of-district tuitions, which will further put massive pressure on the rest of the budget. So those are two aspects of this budget that I'm frustrated by and wish were different. But in terms of the amount of free cash taken out, I don't feel that we have any choice but to go forward with the plan that Jennifer is proposing.
Thank you, Chris. Others? Yeah, Elizabeth.
Appreciate Chris's comments about the consequence of the failed override in 2021. This is what happens.
Right.
Regarding the town side, I actually do think there are some places where we felt cuts, and in particular, the gaps in the Office of Community Development right now, that's having significant impacts. I also think, and I don't want to sound like a fearmonger, but I don't see any way to avoid it. I think we can honestly tell citizens who don't have students in the schools, if the next override fails, it will be, for want of a better word, a bloodbath. We're looking at closing entire facilities to try and meet a $10 million budget gap, given that that the town has not grown, that we haven't been providing level. The only way we provided level services is town employees are working, some 2 and 3 jobs. I am concerned that we can't hire and retain, we can't retain and even hire enough town side staff right now. And I am concerned that if we ask them to do any more with any less, we're going to go into a downward spiral that we can't reverse. But I do take your point that I think we do need to present a very compelling case next year for what a failed override means for this town. And it's ugly. But I don't know. I guess what concerns me is if we tried to, in some ways, make the pain greater this year on the town side, that pain is going to fall on the backs of current town employees who are already quite dispirited and overworked.
Yeah, we haven't had any positions in the town side since 2017. So, and we're down in every single department.
Mark, can you briefly respond?
Yeah, you can. And then Lori had a hand. I'm going to try to recognize folks that haven't spoken, but please, just briefly, Chris.
It'll be brief. I hear you about workload for current staff. I'm talking about actual cuts. Like, for example, and I love the library. I have a bazillion books I take out. We should be cutting the hours of the library so that people in the general public can see this is the result of not passing it over. Fewer library hours. We should not be having all the yard waste collection we have so that people can see that's the result of having a failed override. You don't get as much yard waste collection. There are other things like that where services can be cut that don't involve added burden on already overworked town staff.
And can I just follow up?
Yeah.
One more comment?
Yeah, sure.
And I also wholeheartedly agree, and I've actually said this for a number of years. We need to be developing in-district programming for out-of-district students, not only because of the economic impact of all these out-of-district placements, but also as the mother of a special ed child and a special ed attorney, it's deeply inequitable to be not servicing these children in district when we can't. We can't service all children in district. That's not reasonable. But there are many children that we could, had there been some vision or planning around this. And I frankly think it's shameful and shocking that we haven't done anything about it sooner.
School committee.
No, I know. I say we collectively, it's not this group's
Lori.
responsibility. I say collectively.
Take Elizabeth,
I
go.
agree with all that was said here. I just wanted to point out and say